And this is going to be a great part of the day. You've obviously heard from professors, from administrators, careers managers here, but now is your opportunity to get the real inside track on what it's like to study on the UBC MBA. I'm really pleased to introduce now. We've got 5 of our recent alumni here today, who are going to be on our alumni panel. So let's start by having them introduce themselves. First of all, Martina, do you want to say hi?
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Martina and I'm originally from Slovakia, and at the moment I have a contract with Soder School of Business actually to develop the Alumni Volunteer Program. So those of you who will accept, hopefully everyone, your place in the program will interact with me a lot in the coming months. And only the questions that concern socialized and fun are to be addressed to me, please, because there is life outside of the academia.
Yeah, Martina's not officially on the panel, but she is here as a spokesperson for the social aspect of the program. Okay, so Sasha.
My name is Sasha. I'm originally from Calgary, but I was in Vancouver before I started here at UBC, and I am now an executive search associate, in quotes, headhunter here in Vancouver.
Cool. I'm Arash. I'm from Iran originally, and right now I do project management at Best Buy Canada.
Hi, I'm Andrea Jacob. I am born and raised here in Vancouver, and I currently work at Clearly Contacts. I am the loyalty marketing manager in the marketing department there.
Hi everyone, I'm Davin Luke, class of 2011, and I currently work for Deloitte as a senior consultant in their technology strategy and architecture practice, and I'm originally from Vancouver.
Okay, great. Thanks, guys. So just to start us off while you guys think of some questions, I'd like just to pose the first question to the panel. And that would just be to ask, what were you doing before the MBA? And why did you choose to study on the UBC MBA? Davin, do you want to start us off on that?
Sure, I'll start. So just to give you guys a bit of background, to give you an idea of why I chose UBC and the MBA experience. So I started off my undergrad was in computer science. So I started off the first 3 years as a software developer. And then as I started to move more into the business side of technology, I realized, I needed to be able to speak the language of the business, marketing, working with different areas, and I slowly transitioned into a business analyst role. At that point, I realized there were some gaps in my knowledge, so I needed to fill those. So I thought, MBA would be the perfect arena to do that. So I was looking for, evaluating across the schools, what should I do? Should I go down to an MBA school down in the States? What about in Canada? And I think ultimately there was a lot of factors that made me choose the UBC MBA. And I think, as advice to you guys, you really have to look at it from multiple dimensions. So, financially, I thought that UBC had a good, return on investment, good price point, the duration of the program, 16 months. There's an internship opportunity, and also on top of that, the opportunity to do exchange. So all those factors combined together, made me realize, and wanting to stay in Vancouver as well was a big factor. So all those factors combined made me choose the UBC MBA program.
My background is highly unconventional for an MBA. I started off as a freelance makeup artist for a number of years, and I moved on to manage a photography studio, so not very businessy really. But I decided I had some strengths in marketing, and I really helped that studio grow, and I thought, I might have something here. So I started looking around, and of course, having grown up here, there was definitely a strong preference for UBC. I did my undergrad here. There was a sense of, I guess, familiarity and comfort in coming back. And so when I looked at the program, the thing that really drew me in was the internship and how that, would help out my prospects at finding a job in the future. And the more I looked at it, again, I agree with you, the price point was great, and it felt a lot like coming home. And so that was a really big draw for me.
So my background is kind of similar to Davin's. I did a computer science as well for my undergrad, and I started off with a sort of a technical role. But then as I transitioned into the business side of the company that I worked for, which was an internet company, I kind of realized that I'm sort of interested in the finance and accounting side of things, and I lack sort of the theoretical business skills. So that was the decision point where I was like, I think I need to do an MBA. Why I chose Canada, Davin again did a good job of explaining the different, basically, things that you need to look at, especially price point and duration of program. But for me, a big one was that I have family here, and I actually wanted to make sure that I do my MBA at an internationally recognized school as well. The fact that I had family here just, made me go for this one.
So my career before the MBA was all marketing, mainly online marketing in an international setting. So I chose to do an MBA to enhance my career. I didn't think it was actually going to change my career, which I was pleasantly surprised at. And I always wanted to do an MBA. I have two cousins who both did MBAs, and how their career changed and how they became much stronger leaders was for me really, really important. I thought that's the direction I want to take my career. I chose UBC. I was already in Vancouver, so I was wanting to stay, and I knew UBC had excellent relationships with local businesses, and that's one of the main reasons. The other reason is the integrated core, which I think is changing a little bit.
Yeah, it's changed slightly, but the fundamental principles of that part of the program are the same. Yeah.
So where you're taking a variety of courses all at the same time. I loved cases. Cases were a great part of my MBA, and so reading about that was an integral part of the first few months of the MBA program really made my decision for UBC.
Great, thanks guys. And do you guys have any questions that you can think of that you'd like to ask the panel to start us off? Yeah.
I guess I'm curious to know how long or how many years you guys waited before starting your MBA post-undergrad?
Yeah, so how many years work experience they had? Yeah. Okay, how many years work experience did you guys have before you started the MBA program?
I had 6.
Yeah, 6 or 7.
Mine was 3.
I had 7 years.
They're quite a wide range. We do find that the average, I think, is around 4 years of work experience. Yeah.
I think everybody probably here has a question for you guys in terms of after having worked for 4 or 5 or 6 years and receiving a steady paycheck for all those, how did you find adapting back to student life?
That's a nice question. So how was it, leaving your paid work behind, leaving that regular paycheck behind and returning to student life?
I loved it. Given it was tough to not be getting that regular paycheck. Paycheck I gave myself was I took my student loan and I paid myself every month a little bit. But I knew what I was doing, and I knew this is something that was tough. You get a lot of encouragement. I had a lot of encouragement from my family, a lot of encouragement from my friends. They were really proud of what I was doing, so that was great. I had amazing classmates. Help each other out, and that'll come after again.
It's actually not that hard to go back to school for a geek. I was a geek, and I still was a geek when I was working, so after work I would always study myself, and I always knew that I would do a master's in something. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was going to be technical. It ended up to be business. But I always knew that I was going to do it, so I actually saved for it. So it wasn't that hard for me. financially or otherwise.
So suffering the loss of a paycheck, I mean, realistically, it's your first course in accounting, isn't it? I was lucky. I'm married, so I had excellent support in my husband. And so you plan out very lean meals, and you save your ducats for the beer and the wine to get you through. And but overall, it's really good. And I mean, when you jump into the program, you really do jump in right into the deep end, and you're going a mile a minute. You really don't have time to think about those kinds of things, and it's just a great experience. So.
Yeah, so for myself, I took out a giant student loan. So I actually lived my MBA life quite lavishly. So, but I'm paying the price now. So, but once you get a job afterwards and you get an income coming back in, it's not, you forget about it.
There's the two really different ways of approaching it from Andrea and Davin there. Yeah, Anthony?
What are the biggest challenges that you faced during the program? And I'd also be interested to hear from Martina as well. What was the hardest part of the program for the whole 16 months?
You want to start us off on that one, Martina? What was the hardest part of the program over the 16 months?
The hardest, honestly, Davin and Arash were my classmates. I don't really think that we had such a hard time. I think that we had lots of fun. I'd say, I think that the hardest part for me came after the program, because it was such a great experience, and I had such an amazing class and such a great classmates that I was like, oh, this is done. What am I going to do now? No, it's like you have that great support, and now I have to find a job to pay off my student loan. So it's like during the program, there are going to be some courses that are going to drive you nuts, because you will have to do all of these financial analysis things and play with Excel spreadsheets and, all of that. But it's going to depend a lot which classes you're going to choose and what career track or which track you're going to go through. But your classmates are usually a great support, and the profs at Sauder are amazing. So if you're ever going to have any trouble, you just go to them and you talk to them, and you just had a great example of Darren Dahl, and you're going to do just fine. I think sometimes we are too scared of the MBA. We are thinking that it's such a hard program, and, you're going to have such a, difficult time. You're not. You're going to be just fine. So I mean, main challenge, I don't know. It's getting into the program is a challenge, just to be accepted. And then, once you're in, and you're just going to take a ride and go with it. So don't worry about it.
You guys have anything to add to that about what was the biggest challenge of the program?
Yeah, I'll just say, Martina hit up a couple of good points there. Like, business is multidisciplinary, right? So, you might be really good because your background is IT or marketing. You might be really good at that. So when you come in, you're going to excel in those arenas. But, like, for example, finance or accounting, maybe you've never done it before. And, there's a steeper learning curve for you. But typically, there is someone in the program that knows that area. So, at least with our class, we found, for example, Arash is really good with numbers. He was running around, tutoring people, when they needed help on that area, whereas other areas, other people would step up to the plate. But the other challenge, really, ultimately the biggest challenge I find was work life, that balance. So there are times when you won't have time to, see friends or work out as much as you like. It comes in spurts. So just being able to manage your time, I think, is key.
That's a great point.
Personally, I had a tougher time. I'll give you a general answer and then a more specific one. I had a tougher time finding an internship, and I think sometimes it's just a little bit luck of the draw, and you put yourself under a lot more stress to get that internship than you really should. So that was a bit tough for me. More specifically, I remember I did have a horrible time one time working on a case, and we had to build a financial model. I'm not a numbers person, and yet I was building this model, and I remember it was so hard that I actually had to take a break, go to the bathroom, and breathe, because I was starting to cry, and I was like, I can't cry in front of my fellow students. So that was a tough one. And the funny thing is when I was in the bathroom getting a breather, a friend of mine who was really good at numbers, he lost it. He lost it in the lounge. And it's funny because you go through those things and then you look back and you laugh because you're like, oh my God, you remember when Tim lost it? So there's definitely like high highs and low lows, but overall you come out of it and you laugh at it all. So.
For me, maybe this one applies more to the international students. Having worked in a different country with a totally different business language, my one was, the most challenge was the core, because it's the first 3-4 months that you get exposed to all these different multidisciplinary courses and all the different lingo and stuff like that. So after that, I think it was downhill for me. It was much easier. Yeah, and then I was going for the numbers courses, so that could be part of it.
We would have been a good team.
I bet you.
Okay. Do you want to add anything, Sasha?
No, I
Okay.
think we already kind of covered.
Yeah, we covered quite a lot there, didn't we? That's great. Yeah.
My question is how management work, your boss in your current job knows about MBA and how they really appreciate that you expect something different or you're okay with their expectation.
So that's what did these guys' bosses think before the MBA?
We know about MBA and actually they use these capabilities they've got right now.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I guess I mean, did you speak to your employers before you started the MBA? Was that a difficult thing, or were they supportive? I guess you've all changed careers now, haven't you? So.
Yeah, I mean, my current boss has an MBA, and so he knows what I went through, and it certainly helps in my current career because I talk to executives all day long from all kinds of different professions. So being able to talk the lingo of a supply chain analyst, super great. I do think it's a professional degree, so you do get a lot more respect talking to senior management. So our office is very much, the way we base it on is very much similar to like what a consulting office looks like. So I have a professional degree in a professional environment right now, so it is well respected out there, definitely.
What do you guys feel about the reputation of SORDA, both in Vancouver and also further afield? Has that played had a positive effect on your careers?
I have an answer for the last two questions.
Okay, go for it.
When I was interviewing for my current job, my boss, he said he was finishing up his MBA, not at Sauder, and he asked me, he's like, so how was your MBA experience? And I was like, definitely one of the best things I've ever done. And because he was in the later stages of his, so he was starting to get pretty tired. But anyways, he was one of the main reasons I took the job is because he was an MBA, and I knew that we'd be speaking the same language, we'd be moving at the same pace, and we definitely do. So, what was the second question? After all,
I guess the SORDA MBA, the reputation of SORDA in Vancouver and also further afield.
definitely. Especially in my company, we've had 2 or 3 Solderites. One of my VP finance, he is also a mentor for the MBA program, so it's quite baked into our little company, and it's great because there is a network out there, and when you do run across another solder MBA, it's like an instant connection. You have something to talk about, and there definitely is that within Vancouver for sure. And it's awesome because you get to bug your boss that he doesn't have one.
So I was going to say, I think definitely in Vancouver, the brand is quite strong. I did my internship actually with Deloitte. That's how I got my job, is through the internship program. So, that's another great thing about the program, is going through the internship program can land you a full-time job afterwards. But I did my internship out in Toronto with them. And, the school also has something called the SCMP program. So speaking from management consulting, that there's a program put on by alumni that tries to gear the teachings of like management consulting to those who want to get into that profession. And after you go through that program and you pass, you get first round interviews with all the big consulting firms, including McKinsey, Bain, BCG, Deloitte, Accenture, all those guys. So a lot of the people in our class and the current year and the year before gone through that program quite successfully, got interviews. Most of them actually have secured positions with these companies, right? A lot of them are out in Toronto, so you can see like the brand is starting to build, especially even when I was at Deloitte in Toronto. They're like, oh yeah, Sauder, the Sauder grads are performing quite well. Like, we should definitely consider looking at these schools out west more than just looking at the traditional, East Coast schools. So I think our brand is really spreading over the last couple of years within consulting.
And the SCMP program that Davin mentioned is the Strategy Consulting Mentorship Program. And that's a program that's unique to Sauder, whereby our alumni mentor our current students and help them to develop careers in consulting. As Davin said, if you get through the program successfully, then I think you're guaranteed 7 first-round interviews with top consultancy firms. So it's a really great program. And one of the highlights, especially if you're interested in developing a career in consultancy. Do we have any questions from this side? Yeah, go. Sorry.
How did you guys choose between doing part-time and full-time studies?
Okay, great. So how did you guys choose between the full-time and the part-time MBA? Was that a factor for you guys, or was it always the full-time?
It wasn't, so.
I think for me, I just said 18 months, just go and just really give it 120%. I knew in my job that I'd have to do my job really, really well, and I'd have to do this really well. And if I was going to spend that kind of money, I want to give it my all. And honestly, I did take some classes with some of the part-time students, and there's different atmosphere with the part-time students. But the relationships that I built with my full-time classmates, I almost felt that they were stronger, maybe than part-time, because you're with each other all the time. All day in classes, all evening studying. Yeah, so.
And weekends.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Thursday nights, right?
Did you guys have anything to add to that? Was it always the full-time program for you guys?
I really was debating it initially, and for me it was just that period of I thought full-time, just do it and get it over with. I thought of it more like a Band-Aid, just like jump into it instead of dragging it out. But
great. Okay. We had a question at the back up there.
Well, now sort of touched on it, but how did you find the school-life balance?
Okay. Great question. So yeah, work-life balance. How does that work on the program? I'm sure Martina might jump in as well on this question. Who wants to start on that?
Sure, I'll start.
Thanks.
So, like I mentioned before, there are you are working pretty hard, especially during the initial couple months, because that's when you're ramping up and learning everything for the first time. But there's socials throughout the program. You get to meet your classmates quite well. We organize a lot of parties, dinners. There's school events. There's events outside of work. And the great thing is, whenever we do anything now, even after we've graduated, one email, we have a group email list. One email goes out, 40 people will show up. You really build some good connections there. So, I mean, getting back to your question, work-life balance, there's time to play and there's time to work. And most of the time, it kind of meshes, with each other. You just kind of, when you're doing the MBA, you eat, live, breathe MBA during those periods of time. So you just got to adjust accordingly. I still had time to see my other friends, but you kind of have to let them know that, this is what you're doing. You won't have a lot of time, and you've got to plan ahead for those types of things. So, but if you're a good time manager, then it shouldn't be a problem. Yeah.
For me, it was work hard, party harder. It really was. I mean, like work-life balance, you just manage. I joined up with I actually played on the guys' ice hockey team as my way of like, getting out there and having some fun and trying to create that balance. Probably one of the best decisions I made. Yeah, I mean, everybody's going through the same thing, and you work so hard with them, and then you come out and you spend time and you have a few laughs. And if you're as lucky as I was, my husband came out and he met everybody too. He knows my classmates just as well as I do, and it's like a family.
I don't have much to add, but I had time to get out and see my friends in the weekends and even watch some TV during the weekday nights. So the balance is there.
And you learn really good time management during the first couple of months, because you're just got so much to do that you just go, right, okay, I'm doing this now for 2 hours, and then I'm going to switch and I'm going to do that for 2 hours. And so you just learn to deal with it. And it's funny when you finish and you're done, you're like, oh wow, what do I do with all my time now? You really feel like, I don't know what to do now. So everybody managed. I know everybody managed well.
Actually, I think I have something to add to that. If you want to do 100% perfect, read everything, do everything, you might not have time to even sleep, right?
Yeah.
But you will learn how to efficiently manage your time, and you will know when you're reaching that diminishing return.
Yeah.
Level.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you'll learn how to get the most, bang out of the time, I guess.
I'll just have one comment. The MBA is what you make of it. And I speak to a lot of my classmates, and we still, as Davin said, we still meet up. Actually, I'm having an MBA girls over in my place tonight, and we are having a Skype conference call with the girls who are in Singapore, India, East Coast, and so on. So that should be pretty much fun. But, it's what you make of it. And a lot of the people who did not really get close to their classmates or did not really join any extracurricular activities regret it a little bit, because your MBA, even though I hated the word networking after 2 days of being in the MBA, they are your friends and they are your network. And a lot of times you get like the email, as Davin said, we have a Google address, and like, oh, my company is looking for this and this person, or there is a great job coming out, or like, who is in Toronto, let's meet up. So do find time to meet with your classmates or go for the Thursday pub nights or whatever, at least a little bit, because academia, 100%, very important, and you should study hard, but I'm with Andrea on that one. You should party harder.
I just want to add to that. I have my current job right now because the first Thursday of every month, my classmates, we all meet for drinks, and it wasn't because it was in that meeting. I was chatting with one of my friends who used to work at Clearly Contacts, and made a connection that way. And I have my job because of that conversation that we had that afternoon. So make sure you get to know all your classmates, because you never know what background or how they can help you.
That's great. Thanks, guys. And yeah.
I have two questions.
Okay.
First one is, in what ways or which aspects did the MBA program change you prior to your MBA career? Second one is, what are the tips you would like to share with us of being admitted by UBC MBA program?
They're great questions. Just for the people at home, the question one was, how does the MBA, or how did the MBA change you as people, and what tips would you have for anybody who's going to start the UBC MBA program? Does anyone want to start on that one?
Okay, I can take a stab at that one. So in terms of the first question, how did it change me? I think a lot of the, as we've talked about, a lot of what the MBA is about, the people around you. So you learn quite a bit from everybody, right? Half your learning experience is not the classroom. The lectures, it's learning from what other people talk about during the lectures. So everyone's different ideas on cases and things like that. Now, one of the things I'll highlight to that regard is, you're doing a lot of cases, and a lot of times you're required to stand up and present, stand up in front of the class. You'll get called on randomly sometimes, and you got to be paying attention. I think it changed me in a lot of ways. I always thought I was, okay at presenting, but until every week you're up there, you're talking, you're presenting, you're talking to your group members, like you get pretty proficient at it. And I think it changed me and helped me with my career right now, because in consulting, that's what you do. You got to stand up in front of the client and be able to communicate and articulate yourself, right? So the fact that you get exposed like this and get picked on sometimes it's painful, but then when you're done the program, you literally will have no problem standing in front of a CEO. The capstone course, CEOs come in and they present their problem, and you solve it, and you stand up and present your solution to them. I know a lot of people sometimes get scared of standing up in front of a big group, but I found that through this experience, I improved quite a bit on that front. So.
I think for me, it was a big confidence builder. I know that I can step into a meeting with senior executives and know what they're talking about, whether it's the operations that they're dealing with, the marketing issues, and how the finance plays into all of that. I can step in and feel comfortable. So that's a really, really big, important thing for me, heading into, into the workforce and dealing with the questions I do on a daily basis. As well, when, any situation in the workplace now, I'm like, you know what? Compared to that financial model, it's a piece of cake. I can handle it. I don't get flustered too easy these days, and I think that makes my life way easier.
I certainly attest to both. I had both experiences as well, but specifically for me, the MBA was really a life changer in that I was working in a small startup company, very entrepreneurial. Now I work in a Fortune 500, I think, public company in retail. I used to be in IT. Now this is a completely different industry, completely different role. So I think the excitement is next to none. Depending on what you do after the MBA, you might also go through.
I would agree with everyone, and definitely say the confidence of being able to stand up and present in front of people, going into a room and presenting on your idea and your initiative. That really only came after the MBA. There's just all the things that you practice and all the things that you learn in those 18 months, if you do the program, would all help you. And in terms of tips, while you're in the MBA, find yourself study partners, groups. That's because you're never going to be able to do all the work on your own. It's like what, where if you really wanted to read every single reading assignment and do every single assignment, you'd never get any sleep. So count on your classmates to help you out. And if you're not a finance person, go talk to the person who knows finance best. They'll come to you if you're the marketing person. They'll come to you later for a massive marketing project, and they'll want to be your partner. So use your classmates.
That's a great tip. Are there any more tips for people who are approaching the start of the MBA program?
One of the things that talked about before entering was that what you're going to get out of it in the end, 50% is going to be the actual education, like Davin said, and 50% of it is going to be the network. And so if you concentrate on one of those things too much, you're losing some of the value of it. So if you keep that in mind, that you're there to build relationships and your brain at the same time, then you'll get the most out of it.
That's a great tip. Thanks. Yeah?
Wondering about the strength of the Sauder alumni base. You mentioned you stay in touch with students who are in your class here. How often can
connect with other students? And how strong is the alumni base?
That's a great question. Just for the people at home, how strong is this sort of alumni base? Anyone want to start that one? Yeah.
Okay, so SORDA has got about 30,000 graduates all over the world in 75 countries. And the base is quite strong. You interact quite a bit with the people from the class before you and with the people from the class after you. That's for sure. And then there are a number of projects, and one of them, the SCMP, was already mentioned here, that you have people coming in from a number of years before to mentor you and to help you out. There's also Business Career Center that I don't think Ian mentioned today, has mentorship program for you. So every student who wants to have a mentor throughout the during of the MBA program will have a mentor, which can be a person who is a SORDA grad from 20 years previously. So there is quite a lot of connection with the alumni, and there is a lot of activities that all of the offices are putting together for the students. So you are going to be sometimes even over-networked with alumni to a certain extent. And you have the tracks. You're going to go to China. You're going to go to Toronto if you want. You're going to go to Calgary. You're going to go to MBA games, which is fun. So there is quite a number of interactions, and as well, like us, as we are here, you know, we are more than happy to help you once, you know, we will connect you. If you want to speak to someone in my class concerning a very specific career path, I will connect you with that person. Like, we all help each other. We don't have absolutely problem with that. So the alumni network around the world is quite strong. And there was a story of one of our alumni from, I think, MBA 5 years ago, who was relocating from Japan to Norway. And there are about 11 alumni in Norway, and they all agreed to meet with him and show him around and, you know, just make him feel comfortable. So I wouldn't worry about it at all. And I don't know if you have any international students here today, or this is just mostly home-based, but international students know how difficult it sometimes can be to relocate a country, so they will go above and beyond to help you out. We have buddy programs set up in the MBA program. We are going to pair you up with a person from either the country that you choose or whatever to make you feel at home when you join the program. So you don't have to worry about that at all.
That's great. And the reason why Martina is such an expert on that is that she currently works for the alumni department. She's an alumni manager here at SORDA. So thanks for that, Martina. Have we got any more questions from the floor? Yeah.
Did any of you work part-time? And if so, what would be the maximum number of hours you would recommend? And if you didn't, do you have any tales or tips from friends who might have?
Oh, did any of you manage to work part-time during the MBA program?
I didn't. Wouldn't recommend it. I had a friend. She in the class she did a couple of hours at Starbucks, so all her free coffee. But she was probably the best time manager I have ever seen, and she was super social. Wow. But she could do it. She was an exception to the rule, I think. But I wouldn't. You don't want to work part-time. There's so much other stuff. Like, when you're not studying, you're out with your friends. Like, yeah, I wouldn't recommend it.
Okay.
I think during my year, what was there, like 125 students or so? 2 of them had part-time-ish jobs, and they were nuts. I wouldn't do it.
It's a pretty conclusive answer so far.
I am on the total opposite side. I worked part-time throughout the whole MBA program, and it got me a lot of contacts, a lot of good things came out of it. A lot of good things came out of it on my resume. I mean, I didn't work for a coffee shop. I actually worked for the design studio here at SORDA. That's a new initiative that you are all going to experience. And a marvelous professor is heading that. And yeah, I would recommend it. You have extra pocket money to do all of the all of the stuff and travel maybe. And I went to Africa for for my internship and stuff. So it depends. Where is your comfort zone? If you think that you can't handle it, and you can financially are able to handle everything, and you're going to have a giant student loan that you repay after and you worry about it after, don't do it. But if you think you can manage a part-time job and add something during your MBA program on your resume, you know, if it's going to be something professional or if you just want to have an extra pocket money, it all depends on you. There is no generalization. You have to know what is comfortable. I would do it again. So it depends on you.
Let me add that Martina is probably a very good time manager. She was also the president, working part-time, and studying. So, you know, you're a biased example.
That's great. Just a quick reminder for people at home, if you do want to email us in your questions, you still can, or you can tweet them to us using the hashtag MBAEXP. Does anyone else have any questions in the room? Yeah.
Just another one. Did you or any of your classmates start up businesses as a result of your MBA? And if so, what percentage or how common is it to start?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I don't think any of these guys have started their own business, but do you know any of your classmates who've done so?
Yeah, so at least in our class, there's definitely a couple of entrepreneurs in our class started their business, you know, developed their business plan with, you know, through the school, like through that tech entrepreneurship program. But the one that comes to mind most recently is our friend Jordan Cash. He started his donut shop up on, I think it's Cordova, and on Carroll Street.
Carroll, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So Cartem's Donuttery, and it's quite successful. Lineup sold out every day, and you know that was his dream. You know,
and he was
through that during his university. So
yeah, and he was in the Globe and Mail as well.
Yeah.
I think last week we had an article about him in the Globe and Mail.
And he actually did projects on his idea in the program. I think one of his creativity class, the donut idea was what he did in the class. So.
And it's worked out well.
There is another person in our class who, out of the tech entrepreneurship class, Craig Terry, who is working on his business, but it's kind of a high tech business. He's in the process. So there are a number, and I know there are a number of people who are thinking of setting up their businesses as well. So it may be not like 50% of the class, but there are definitely people who go that path.
Yeah, and of course now with the business innovation track that we heard about from Paul this morning, we're really encouraging that more and more within the MBA class. And there's a question at the back. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess going back to a little bit more about admissions, so in the absence of a strong GMAT score, what would you advise to prospective students to focus on to make things more competitive for UBC Sauder?
Okay, so within somebody's application, beside the GMAT, yeah, what other things would you really focus on in your application to make it more successful? Yeah.
For me, I was actually advised, so my question when I wanted to apply was, I didn't have much work experience, I only had 3 years. My GMAT was okay, and I was advised that I need to make sure that my essays are done pretty well. So I guess I will just reiterate that to you. If you have good work experience, then that's really good.
I think UBC Sauder, I think they want to create a diverse class every year. That's definitely what we had. I think the more experience, whether it's at work or, you know, what you do in your volunteer or, you know, what crazy travels you've been on, I think the more creative that you can get in your essays or the things that you do, I think the admissions team would love to hear that because you learn things from your classmates, and that's all part of learning life experiences.
Great, some good tips there, yeah.
Spent in outside of class, but I think that was tackled. The other one was really about, I guess the question is, talk about the support that you received from the Business Career Center, both during the program and perhaps afterwards when you were embarking on your post-MBA job search?
Oh, so great question. So the support from the BCC, both during the MBA and afterwards.
Okay, I can talk to that one. So as I mentioned, I got my job, my full-time position through an internship that the BCC posted. It was a posting that Deloitte came in through the Career Center, and I applied that, got the internship, and then got the full-time position afterwards. So I mean, they were really supportive. You know, a lot of employers come through, post the positions. The BCC makes sure that you're prepared for the interviews. So for mine, you know, the interview happened on short notice. You know, pretty much right after I applied. You know, the interview was going to happen in a couple days. So the Career Center like sat me down and said, okay, you know, for a consulting type of interview, these are the things you can expect. Here are some people you can talk to that have done, you know, interviews before with consulting firms. And so I talked to a couple people as well to get myself prepped up for that. So I felt that throughout the program I had the support required to, you know, get my job essentially afterwards. So.
Did any of you guys have experiences with the BCC?
Yeah. I'll add a few words to that. BCC is there to support you. They would do whatever you need, or they will provide you with whatever service you need. And again, there are people who don't go to the BCC. I was, for example, one of them. I saw my career advisor 2 times, first and the last. Not because she didn't want to see me, but I was like, throughout my connections, throughout the part-time job, throughout having good relationships with people, I could take care of myself on my own. So you're not obliged to go to the BCC. If you can manage on your own, you can manage on your own, but you are going to have your own career advisor. You know, you can contact Ian, who is the boss. You can contact Denise Baker, who is the director of the whole BCC Center. So use their services. They have a pretty good platform called Cool, which I've been to, I think, twice. I'm ashamed to admit. But there are a lot of good resources there for you. So they're there for you. Just go and talk to them and set up your appointments because they want to see you. They want to help you out. And, you know, it's a success of the school as well when you find the jobs immediately when you finish your MBA. That's what everybody wants for you to have. Nobody wants you to be unemployed for 5 years after you do your MBA. So just go and ask them. Just go and use their services.
Thanks, Martina.
I can add to that. Just like Davin, my internship also was posted by BCC on Cool. So, and I applied through Cool, which is the system that the BCC uses to post jobs. Other than that, they have pretty interesting workshops and programs that I really benefited from. The main things that really helped me was how to build my resume the way employers want to see resumes. I think that was very important. Another one which I found pretty cool was that the mock interviews, where you also get filmed and you get the film yourself after, and you get, and this interview is done by an industry consultant, and you get feedback right away. They ask you pretty hard questions that you really need. Again, as much you need to put effort into it. If you're prepared for the mock interview, then you know you're gonna use the feedback a lot and learn a lot from it. And I learned a lot from it as well.
Great. Thanks, guys. Have we got any more questions out there? Oh, yeah.
For those of you who have done the exchange, what were the pros and cons of that experience in relation to your career?
Okay, great. So for those of you who did the exchange, what were the pros and cons of that experience in relation to your career? Did any of you guys go on exchange?
There were a lot of people. I think Soder, one of the reasons I chose Soder was because they had such a broad exchange program. In the end, I couldn't go because I had my eyes set on Melbourne and I'm going to Melbourne, but then I became the president of the class and I couldn't go. So whoever wants to be the president of the class, forget the exchange. But a lot of the people said, you know what, the Soder's curriculum and the academia was much more rigorous then some of the schools that they went to, even in Europe, the top ranked schools, like the life at Soder was harder in terms of like the grades, the like making an effort and studying. Than, you know, they would expect in some of the other schools. So, but I mean, everybody had a good time, you know, they loved the exchange, and the school really made an effort and has partnerships with some of the best schools around the world. So those who want to go on exchange, go on exchange. But for some of the international students, Canada is already in an exchange. So where we, you know, so you just want to stay here and get your Canadian experience. So it depends what you want to get out of it and where you want to go. Do you want to go there for cultural reasons? Because, for example, Copenhagen Business School, if anybody is interested in social entrepreneurship, Copenhagen Business School is maybe the school to go for exchange because they have that program. So look at the schools and see what kind of a program or what kind of exchange you want to do. You know, maybe somebody just wants to go to Paris because they want to work in the fashion industry. So you have to make that trade-off. But in general, from all of the classmates that I've heard from, Soder was more difficult in terms of academia than the rest of the schools that they went to.
I'll also add to Martina and just say that the exchange program benefits not just the people going out, but the people that stay. The reason is because when you send one person out, you bring one person in from the other schools, right? So, you know, if someone goes to Spain, you know, someone from Spain comes to Vancouver to take their spot. So if you get sick and tired of your classmates, you know, you get to refresh a new set of students that come in afterwards during the exchange program. But, you know, it goes to getting experiences from people around the world because, you know, everybody comes in from all the different countries and they're, you know, fresh new faces and fresh new ideas that they bring halfway through the program, right? So I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah, I think the key is for you is to maybe speak with your careers manager while you're making that decision and see if going on exchange is the right thing for your career. You know, if you want to develop a career in India, then going on exchange for 3 months in India might not be a bad idea. So you need to consider things like that. I think there's a question over here somewhere. Yeah.
The question is actually for Arash. You were talking about your essays as being an important factor for you at least. And then I believe Sasha said that creativity was really important for you. That's kind of something, or that might be important. What was it about your essay that you focused on or that kind of helped you get the most out of it?
Okay. It's quite a detailed one.
So I agree with the creativity point that Sasha mentioned, but creativity, I think, with boundaries, right? You don't want to just be all over the place, but creativity in that you show that you understand the question that's being asked. And for mine, I think I remember there was a specific question about how you would advertise, I think, a program or a project or a product. And actually what my answer specifically was to have a multi-channel approach. Look at internet, see what returns you get over the television mediums, internet medium, other mediums, and try to. So it was a holistic approach to answering. It wasn't like go advertise on the internet or do advertisement on TV. Again, if you show business acumen.
I think we've probably got time for. Sorry, Arthur. Yeah.
Question from our online audience. It's from Nash. I think it's a great question. If you had to retake the MBA program, is there anything that you do differently?
That is a great question. So if you had to retake the MBA program, is there anything that you would do differently?
One of the things I heard during the program from someone that was finished was like, if I could have gone back, I would have taken more finance and more, human resources type courses. And, being in the midst of it at the time and really wanting to go into the marketing stream, I was like, really? But now being out of it, I think I would have done that a lot more. You never can ever underestimate the value of being able to deal with people when you're a manager and when you have employees under you that you have to take care of. So I would have done that a little bit differently, and having more numbers in your back pocket is always valuable. So.
I'd agree. I'd definitely go back and take more finance classes. I think the finance classes might have scared me off a little bit, but again, my classmates would have helped me along for anything I didn't quite get. But the finance is still part of any MBA. Focus more on the strategy classes and the HR classes, actually.
I agree to that. I don't regret anything at this point, but there was a decision point that I had that I was questioning taking this course, the management consulting course. Looking at the class or the course outline, I was so scared that I was this close to not taking it. But actually taking that course, even though I knew that it was going to be very hard, it actually provided me the job that I have right now. So it's really important to not be scared. Take those courses that you think are going to be hard, but you think there's something good's going to come out of it, for sure.
All right, I'll echo the same thing, taking more risks. So not just courses, but like taking more risks during the program to speak up during discussions and contribute a little bit more. Because it's the MBA really is your training ground, right, before you go back out into the workforce. So that's your opportunity to make some mistakes and maybe make some mistakes and look like a fool, but then not do it out in the real world when you go out there. So that's my thoughts. So
great, that's great. I think we've probably got time just for one more question. Does anyone have one more question before we wrap it up? Yeah, okay.
What was the thing that surprised you most, given whatever preconceptions you might have had about an MBA program? What surprised you most when you're actually in it or finished the program?
That's a great question. So what surprised you most about the MBA program?
For me, I was it was a step outside of my comfort zone and my realm, entering the MBA. And I remember just worrying so much that it was going to be so hard, and how was I going to be able to handle this, and am I going to be smart enough to do all of this? And I think what surprised me the most is I was pretty quiet at the beginning, and then you get a lay of the land, and you start to understand how the dynamics are, and you start to rise, and you don't know entirely what you're capable of until you get in there and you're doing it. And I remember reading the first case and being like the whole time just like glassy-eyed and confused. And then by the end of the core, you're just hammering out those cases like they're nothing. So you surprise yourself with those things.
Anyone else have anything to?
I was very scared. When I got that offer, I had no idea whether I would be able to do this. But what surprised me was how enjoyable the whole experience was. It was awesome. That's all I can say.
I think that's a really good point to finish on. It was an awesome experience. Okay, so I'm just going to, before I pass it over to Arthur, I'd just like to say a really big thank you to our panel and to Martina for taking the time on a Saturday afternoon to come and join us today. So let's give them a round of applause. Thank you.